Didn't. No one learned anything. This is bollocks. Fuck this shit. Like, is it that hard? Seriously?
Well, it's not. If I can interject, I think that one or more of us are conflating some sort of core concept of the Google Hangout that is making things difficult.
Like, we invite folks and they click the thing and then we go to the thing? That
I
is.
don't know. I'll try to do it myself. Maybe me and some other people, if they wouldn't mind, like helping me troubleshoot it, might be able to figure out what the central problem that keeps happening is.
I can troubleshoot it. The fucking shotgun shield. Mm. Like execution is what I'm saying. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I got it. Definitely got that.
Anyway, I'm Chris. This is Home Movie Club.
I'm Derek. I don't have a camera.
I'm Josh.
I'm Terry. I choose not to have a camera.
Yeah, he's always been a jerk about that. Jeez.
I'm Katie, and I'm also making that choice.
We can look at Deadpool, and that's pretty funny. So,
I'd like it if it was like an animated GIF. That would have been cool.
yeah. I think if anything that complicated was interjected into this scenario, everything wouldn't just fail; it would also burn and kill one of us. Remember that impression.
I would like to live.
But speaking of the hubris-laden failures of society, survivors, huh?
Nice segue.
Indeed.
Um, yeah. So, for initial thoughts, folks.
Honestly, I was a little disappointed. Like, I expected more. I don't know why. I mean, maybe I had rose-colored glasses from Walter Matthau when I was younger. But Robin Williams really made the film, and that's kind of saying something for me.
All right.
I think Walter Matthau was supposed to be in there as the straight man, because honestly, if you're going to
Yeah.
have Robin Williams, you need a straight man, and who better than Walter Matthau?
He's an experienced straight man.
Yep.
It's true. Oh, my initial thoughts were, this movie is so 80s.
Yeah, it's definitely a product of its time.
Speaking of it being a product of its time, my initial thoughts were that it was somewhat refreshing to see the cycle of kind of society kind of complete a revolution in my lifetime, as a lot of similar themes that are kind of griped about today were being griped about in whenever this was made, early 80s, late 70s, what have you.
83.
Well, it's when it was released, but I don't know. Yeah. So my initial thoughts wasn't as great as I remembered. I think that's an effect of watching something you like with other people. But I still really enjoyed it, and I think it managed to be kind of a thinky comedy.
Mhm.
Instead of something that's more upright, which is sort of Robin Williams' shtick.
Yeah. I do feel like it was. I do feel like there was kind of. I don't know if it was just my state of mind at the time or what have you, but it felt like they were kind of like they were layering the negativity. Like, oh, then this happened, no, then this happened, no, like all of these kind of improbable circumstances, one after the other, just making life for both of these people progressively more shitty. And I wish that would have I wish they would have like scaled back like maybe one or two. Like I felt like it was just a little bit too much. I'm like, okay, I get it. Bad things. Let's get on to the story.
Look, in a society that finds it easy to blame people when things happen to them, right? I think they have to rely on that hyperbolic bad luck to show these two guys descending from comfort down through the path where they both rely on the safety net of society, and that
Yeah.
fails.
Yeah.
And so it has to be comedic, not just because this is a comedy, although mostly because it's a comedy. Like you don't fire someone with a parrot in scene 2, because you're trying to maintain a serious tone.
Well, I mean, I'm not
Shouldn't
good.
Sorry. In today's day and age, if the secretary had actually pulled a gun on him, he probably could have
Yeah.
sued the company and lived off the profits.
And that's the kind of thing that was just kind of, and maybe this is the whole like my immersion. Oh my god! But I was just like I can get on board with the parrot firing. It's kind of quirky, interesting, and funny. But then like everyone had a gun and they were pulling it on everyone else, and I was like,
Or mace.
yeah, or maze, and I didn't know. So I work with a lot of people. I work with a lot of Indians, and I thought that was kind of a relatively new thing. But apparently, like in metropolitan areas, it's always kind of been a thing. Which, growing up in like the South, I guess you don't really catch that. And so, like, seeing this kind of late 80s movie where he's, like, trying to fight bureaucracy and this person just, like, unapologetically amazes the shit out of him. Like, this old man. Like, this old man right in the eyes. Like, damn.
Yeah. But it's 1980s New York. I mean, no fucks are given. Given
Yeah.
fucks, you get stabbed with one of your own given fucks.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's
The-
it's its own wilderness. Sorry.
I still contend that this movie was not supposed to be a New York in the 80s. It was just supposed to be New York in the 80s in a movie.
I don't know if I follow.
All 80s movies are all movies.
I like it's meta where it's making fun of the extremism of New York.
Oh.
I'm asking. I don't
Oh.
forget what
No, I'm saying that this is the same universe that Die Hard actually happened.
I don't know. I see it as it's trying to be a little lower than that because I mean, no one blows up the roof. God bless you, of a skyscraper in Survivors. Like the first part especially is just folks trying to do like low level stuff because they end up interacting with unemployment. They end up interacting with police. They end up interacting with daughters in arcades.
Which that was also.
Okay. Okay, but they also had a parrot fire a guy, old lady secretary pull a gun on a guy, and Walter Matthau getting maced by an Indian woman while trying to get unemployment. I mean, also a ridiculously overdone, this is how our government works situation. Oh, and a friendly, hitman.
Oh, good.
That's how our government works, bit.
Love that Hitman.
Yeah, he's my favorite character. He's my favorite character. Runner-up is the daughter.
I guess I am kind of a lion. Sorry, I've seen exactly 2 episodes of Firefly. That's the reference I get. Sorry. But yeah, no, the Hitman and the daughter are both great.
I just felt like this. Oh, good. Sorry.
I was going to go back to what Terry was saying because
Okay.
I want to go on a link about pretty much every character in here.
Yeah.
Is like the government failure bit? Like you mean like the survivalist, or like the government's going to fail, like that, or just in terms of the bureaucracy?
The bureaucracy, the redundant bureaucracy, the incompetence of the police, and just anything they had to do with the government came out as just crap. The police ignore them until they see him with a gun.
Yeah, it's an important part. Yeah.
They get put on hold when they try to call emergency services.
Yeah. I mean, it worked in Demolition Man, I felt, but not really here.
Yeah.
But that's how my perspective is. I was trying to give voice to, especially given the economic situation of the late 70s, as I understand it, is that a lot of people felt failed by their government, right? Like these are people who'd never had to deal with the safety net, and I'll try to make that the last time I say that. And they found that it didn't do everything they thought it would do. They were losing faith in public institutions. And that's why Donald was such a big deal. And if you remember the 90s, like there were a lot of like militia guys, a lot of people saying, oh, the government's going to fail. Oh, this is failing us entirely. And I think it tried to catch that zeitgeist, but then it turns. It turns like halfway through the movie. So I don't know. I don't know if
Honestly,
if that drives with anyone else.
It does, and honestly, like I did not see that little twist coming with the freaking guy, the survivalist, the lead.
Oh, really? I could have.
Yeah.
Wait, that he was actually like a capitalist the whole time, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be like this whole like we're actually gonna form a revolution and do stuff. Like I thought it was gonna go in a different direction at the end.
Oh no! The minute he came up with his survivalist assistant, I was like, "Yep, this he's a chill for sure."
Yeah. What is he from, by the way?
Second.
What is he from, by the way? The Wes. He's from stuff. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, you do that.
Will.
There. So.
Okay, we recognize the Hitman from Smokey and the Bandit. Okay.
I did not recognize him from anything, but that is not surprising.
Well, that's
Oh well,
probably
sorry.
because-
Smokey and the Bandit was a the thing that my parents watched, so therefore I ended up watching it, and so I got to see 1 and 2, and he's the truck driver with the Basset Hound sidekick that is trying to make the run while the bandit is trying to distract everybody.
Yep.
So it was nice to see him in something else.
Yeah, it's the entire plot of Smoking the Bandit. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's misdirection, but with cars.
Uh-huh.
And lots
And
of
Burt
races.
Reynolds, hello.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds. And Sally Field, if Sally Field was there.
Yeah, but I liked her least out of everything in that movie. So
Yeah, he wasn't
Aw.
in anything. Oh.
Sally Field's
She's-
sad.
She's kind of a shoehorn love interest in that movie.
yeah,
I mean, she seems like a great
it
character.
kind of like really tried to put that in, and it's like nope.
Yeah. So
Oh well, we're off topic. That movie
we are
is not
so off
Robin Williams.
topic.
No, but that's
Hey,
not.
we're
That's
reviewing
not.
Smoking the Bandit here.
I was gonna say that's not necessarily.
Unusual.
Yeah, that's where I was going for. Unusual for us.
Considering this is the second movie talk that I've actually made, I wouldn't know.
Oh, yeah.
What was the last one?
I think it was Cabin in the Woods because it was the only other one that I'd actually seen before you guys started talking about it.
That's a good one to be there for too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
This guy was in a lot of westerns, but not much else.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah,
he's got that rugged cowboy look going.
yeah,
for him.
like that hometown Southern, like I don't want to have to shoot you, son, but
No, that's Jerry Reed. I'm talking about Wes. He was.
Wes. Oh,
He did television acting a bit. Nothing.
Nobody cares about Wes. Why are you still in Wes?
But Jerry Reed is great. I do like him because I'm a strict Southern Baptist. I put a premium on the value of human.
yeah, yeah, that was so good.
Never mind that
20,000.
it's Southern Baptist. He shouldn't be shooting people.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That was so good.
I loved his wife when he leaves after telling her what he's going to do in
Yeah.
explicit detail, and she's all like, "Thank God."
Yeah. Oh, thank God.
Ah.
Commit adultery. Commit murder.
Yeah,
Okay.
Also, what is it with movies around that era where there's always a woman who looks more like a young teenage boy, or at least in haircut?
Are you talking about his wife?
Yeah.
Yeah, she had that extreme pixie cut before it was, looking good on women.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought she looked both good and feminine and appropriately aged.
I kind of feared that they cast for a housewife, so nothing impressive, just like a housewife of.
No, I will say that was probably the most housewifey, but yeah, it's just a weird look to me. I don't know why.
It's
Anyway,
the 70s.
I was going to make a joke that's because you're Catholic, Derek, but
It's quite possible.
it doesn't really work because you're last.
Well, I lapsed. No. I've officially quit Catholicism cold turkey.
Wow.
Don't worry, they'll get you back.
That's cool. I'd like to see the Pope try. Him and his oh fuck, I used to know this. What are they called? The guard, the Vatican's guard.
Swiss.
The Swiss Army?
No.
Or sorry.
No way.
The Swiss Guard, or
Yeah, they're the Swiss Guard. They're supposed to be from Switzerland.
yeah.
Darn it, we just watched this episode of Archer.
Gendarmes. They're gendarmes.
Oh, really?
The Pope and his gendarmes.
Oh yeah, we have to call him by a fancy name.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I've only seen it. I've only
All
read
right,
it.
so as far as the characters go, I'd just like to say Robin Williams came into his own once they got to the survival camp.
Yeah.
As a character, because before that he couldn't decide whether he was being serious, dramatic Robin Williams or just plain Robin Williams.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
He's
saying?
to be Robin Williams.
They throttle it back, like they bring the high Robin Williams down.
Oh yeah.
In like compensation for that, the early part he is incredibly low. I think to give you a contrast.
Yeah.
So he's. Yeah, he's.
And of course, our hitman, he's great all the way around, I think. And so I really think he should have just gone, listen, these guys are clearly scared. Well, this one at least is. He's the one that can really finger you. The other's a crazy guy. I mean,
No loose ends.
Crazy guy.
yeah, kind of crazy. And yeah, so our three characters, it's almost like we've got Robin Williams, then and Walter Matthau, the straight man,
Mhm.
and then our hitman, who's kind of half straight man, half
Yeah.
something else.
He's kind of out. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's certainly. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. We're talking about something else.
And of course, then we have the teenage daughter, because otherwise, movie total sausage fest.
Okay, I really wanna talk about the teenage daughter in the first
Okay.
scene that she's introduced in.
I wonder why.
No, well, I have problems with it, and I am also confused by it because
Also, one last thing, I've actually seen that porno.
okay, I don't know if I'd say that
And
on
no one is
the
surprised.
internet. Yeah.
I
Really.
don't think anybody knows how to
We are.
respond to that.
What? It's a classic.
Okay. Is it Debbie Does Dallas?
No, it's how the
I
West
doubt
was
that.
wet.
Oh,
Somebody
that
wasn't paying attention to the movie.
No, well, just because they say a title doesn't mean it's A, accurate, B, what's on the TV. I hate to tell you this, but it's fiction.
Yeah, but it was probably free advertising for whoever's cousin was actually running that particular
Yeah, maybe so.
sideline business.
You still got to clear all that stuff. It's a headache. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, the daughter, the first scene.
Right. So she's so I don't know exactly how old Walter Matthau's supposed to be, but I do know that he's the father, right?
Yeah.
So he gets home and he's kind of got this, hey, I need to talk to you, like some things are kind of wacky, and then like he sits down and he's searching his surroundings for some kind of fixed point that he can like get his bearings and then start talking about this uncomfortable subject.
Yeah.
And it just so happens he glances at the TV and she is nonchalantly watching porn, and like
You do.
she said, and I'm like, I don't even know like where, like she could be watching so many other things. Like I don't get why it A has to be porn, B why she got it from arcade, C why it's even relevant. Like I don't get it. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to walk away from like that particular scene with.
All right,
Maybe
I
it's a
think
setup for the degradation of society bit that they're going to do later with the survivalists.
that's a fair. So that's actually kind of what I was going to go for.
I don't know. It doesn't feel like it ties in though. Like it's just one. Like I would get it if there were other like teenagers that were just doing other stupid shit. But I mean, you only get like ineffective bureaucracy and this one teenager that seems to be okay with kind of the hypersexuality of porn and is nonchalant about it.
Apparently,
It's
so
her-
nonchalant, she did
it-
nothing to stop it while her dad comes home.
Now
Yeah, that's what I'm
that-
saying.
I maintain that she was
Good.
simply past the point of reaction by the time he was in the door. So trying to stop it would have drawn more attention, and she almost got away with it too.
Yeah.
Please
she
continue.
almost did.
Yeah, I've had
But
those
the
darn
thing is that
kids.
Smart kid.
I think it further establishes the fact that Walter Matthau is not only the straight man, but it also shows the protective streak of him being a father, that this is his kid. I mean, this is one of those things where it
Yeah,
shows
he's a
up
dog.
again later on in the film where he's all like, oh, those two jackasses are out of the car? My daughter's here. That's the only thing that matters, so let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
don't like. I don't know. Like I felt like his response was kind of somewhat tame when he found it. Like if he's overprotective, like he's like, "Who gave you this? Okay, no more arcades, no more this." I'm like, okay, so she can't go to the arcades and she can't talk to guys, but like we're not even going to address her like choosing to watch this of her own kind of volition. Like I don't know. Like I guess
Sure.
it just doesn't it doesn't land with me.
It's just one of those things, like, I mean, you're walking in from a day where you just got all that crap happen to you, right? Your
actually
daughter's
really-
sitting there watching a porno. To me, it kind of got the vibe that, they probably had to talk, but it's something you really want to know about your kid, I mean, you want to know, but you don't want to know. So to me, it's like he's in there and he's like, I really don't know how to handle this, or I'm trying to be as mild about it as possible because I don't want to make a big, huge deal out of it. I mean, to me, it seemed like there was a lot of reasons why he handled it the way he handled it, but that's just me. I mean,
I'm going to chime in and go with the degradation of society bit, because it isn't just the public services. He's fired. The way Donald is fired, though he goes to the coffee shop and no one cares. And Walter Matthau goes point blank, "Look, you seem like you're a guy with a lot of problems. So
Yeah.
why don't you go somewhere else and talk to somebody about it?" Like no one gives a shit.
Go handle it.
Like, and it's not just so it isn't just the public institutions. It's people. It's everything in these scenes. People just don't care. People can't care. So these guys do feel completely isolated. You can see Donald's fiance leaves him. It's a pretty soft leaving, but it's still.
I guess
they just feel
because
more
they,
alienated.
I guess all of those things felt to me while I was watching it as a string of isolated incidents. They didn't feel like they were connected. They were almost kind of like happening to you, but they weren't like the people that were happening to didn't really seem invested at all in the fact that this was not what it should be, other than in the diner with Robin Williams saying, "What the fuck? This isn't how it should be." A person I know for X amount of years pulled a gun on me, and then he says some other things I can't remember.
Yeah, no. But if it doesn't hit you that way, if it doesn't build the world, if it just seems autistic, I mean, if you reject the premise of New York in the '80s, like there's nothing, like I can't sell you on that. And
I think I'm
sorry
just
to hit you that way.
I think I'm just ignorant of New York in the '80s. Like I just don't think I've ever like I don't think I ever like got it.
Imagine L.A. but slightly better. No, it's I
mean, we've watched enough '80s films to get an idea on that. I mean, Richard at this point would chime in and say, hey, look at Bates, not Bates Motel, freaking American Psycho.
Yeah. And that's all movies, so we don't really know what it was like. If I ever run away with the doctor, I promise New York in the '80s.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's kind of my point is that yeah, I can relate to. I can tell you what I thought of New York was in the '80s. I mean, especially considering Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you what New York actually was like in the '80s. So I don't know if
ninjas.
when I'm looking, if I'm looking at, should I be thinking, man, Leonardo's gonna pop out of the sewer any moment now, or is it, no, this is like. Have you ever tried to get a fucking renew your license in New York? It's fucking terrible. It's a week-long process. And...
Yeah. So, and it's one of those things like we talked about it with. I don't want to reference this Carlos, where the ending is so perfunctory, like you don't know if there is French cultural knowledge which fills in and contextualizes those gaps. And maybe similarly for folks living in the '80s. Maybe even for folks living in New York in the '80s, or maybe for folks not living in New York in the '80s who are using the same remote cultural touchstones as we are.
Mm-hmm.
How is that supposed to be interpreted? And I guess for me, I would just accept the default language that there's no bottom on this thing. But instead of going, hey, look, I'm Crocodile Dundee, some guys in freaking Thriller jackets are going to try to pull a knife on me. And I got, but you're Crocodile Dundee, so there's a different baseline. So this brings it down to like, okay, we accept the premise that '80s New York is bad, but what's it like for the average guy?
Right.
And they use that to create this worldview because, well, I could ramble on about, I guess, the singular perspective that everybody carries, no matter what environment they go through. Like video game guys who are like, hey, there's no misogyny in video games. Like, well, no one's ever
video game guys.
No one's ever given you that specific harassment, so you never see it.
Yeah.
So for you, it's like it doesn't exist, but it does exist, even if it's not. Is it universal? Is it a near universal experience? Sometimes things work out, sometimes things don't. But I think I bought the cartoon flat palette of '80s New York. And the system seems to be failing these people, or at the very least, they think it's failing them, and that's kind of the bedrock that it lays down for the first. I cannot believe this movie was 2 hours long.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that too. Like it registered when I started the movie, but then kind of towards the end, I kind of forgot that it was this long.
Yeah, well, the ending picks up. Up.
The ending does pick up. To be honest, for me, you were talking a little bit about pacing. Like, I felt it could have been a lot faster at the beginning. Like, it almost felt like the start of it dragged on to me. I was just kind of like, yeah, let's do something.
I don't know.
Let's see what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't think enough movies.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't think enough movies spend enough time, pacing and
Establishing.
establishing early on. So that part was kind of refreshing, except I found Robin Williams largely tedious through most of it, especially
Yes.
after the hospital scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much,
'Cause
that's what I was gonna say, because that's the part that dragged, and it's like, then you get the nice scrotum shot, and it's like, oh, thank you, I needed
Yeah,
that.
I
Speaking
saw
of
that
which-
too, actually. I was like, oh. Why-
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I did not see the scrotum because my head turned away just as it was happening. So I think I won Wilma Movie Club.
Good
Just saying.
dodge.
This week.
Good dodge, Terry.
I actually have to say I missed it too. Like you're talking about scrotum shot, and I'm like, I missed that apparently, and I'm cool with that.
No,
Yeah, you should be
nobody,
cool with that.
yeah, nobody missed it.
So you're right.
Terrible, or you did see it, and you're lucky.
It's like seeing a baboon nipple, but you didn't miss much. It's
Yeah.
basically.
It is. There are a lot
A
of
little
parallels
bit of
there
flesh behind
between
a lot of
Robin
hair.
Nibbles and Robin Williams.
Yeah, it's Robin Williams. I mean, the dude is hairy, as we talked about. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One hairy
But
motherfucker.
yeah, no, because he is trying to transform from basically Ted from Scrubs, the complete sad sack, to full-blown Robin Williams, and I think there's a good reason why you can't do that in a movie, or you have to do it way more carefully than they did do.
Yeah, I do. I definitely feel like they should have done more carefully because he gets so they have the montage right where he's in the Survivor and like he fucks up like at every turn. But then when Walter Matthau finally shows up, he's like, yeah, let me take you to so and so, and he's like casually pulls out a gun, disarms a guy, like it's no big deal. I'm like, okay, so like I don't know if you know montages, but you should do better.
Yeah, like you're supposed to take us somewhere or demonstrate something to us, and then someone's like,
I was like, wait, so now he's good? How did that happen? I thought the whole point of the montage was, man, this guy's just hopeless.
yeah, and that's I'll give you that because he ends up going right back to not so great before it's all over.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know, the tree trap was almost kind of impressive.
He fluctuates for sure. Like he seems to submit to Walter Matthau's kind of like I want to say North Korean based torture tactics. But then like when he's tied up and sleeping, he remembers his belt buckle and does some like legit resourceful shit. I'm like, wow. So I don't know like what's going on here.
Well, let's be honest, a sleeping 16-year-old with headphones on was his guard.
Yeah,
but he was still tied up. He had gas in his boot. Yeah. I like how she kind of like she. I liked the length in which she tried to make it going, even though evidence kept being presented to the contrary.
You've just seen most of my high schoolers, and in the moment I catch them doing something.
Yeah.
That is literally what happens every time I catch them. They don't automatically say, "Yeah, I did that." It's always some story. That was the very, very believable teenage part about her performance.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's true.
I did it.
Characters and anything. She's probably the most likable. I mean, she feels real.
Oh yeah, she does.
Because she is sort of like a kid, obviously, but then she also seems to grasp things on a certain. Like she seems a little more mature, not like super mature, but she seems like a teenager. Like she's aware of her surroundings. She's with the program, and she's still.
And I also think too that she's kind of like if you pay attention to her mood as the movie kind of goes on, it tends to lighten up, even though she's in kind of these wild situations. And also, if you also pay attention to kind of the interplay between Walter Matthau, Robin Williams, and the assassin. The mood and how close these three get together, like they track in parallel, and it's almost as if like, you know what? Hey, the world's maybe not that bad. You know, like people are just jerks. But you know, if you take time to like she sits back in the car and says, "Hey, this is really fun. This is like the most fun we've had in a long time." Like actually getting shot at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering what kind of Xanax she was on at that particular moment. It's like, did they give you mood-altering pills to deal with your parents' divorce?
It was the 80s, so yes. I mean, even the Hitman had Valium.
Yeah.
I know. I love that. Because again, they bond over a common sort of humanity there.
Yeah.
I like to think that that guy may have been the basis for Analyze This. Like
Yeah.
somebody just saw that, like, hey, a hitman, and he's got problems. There's a story there.
Yeah, villains aren't supposed to have problems, and then again, he turns out to be not the villain.
No.
I mean,
Sort of.
not really. I mean, yeah, but things change. Yeah. So and I guess you get character. People reasonably resolve their conflicts in this movie, even amidst a bunch of people shooting at them.
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
it's an interesting way to kind of resolve what's been the A plot, the A conflict throughout the movie, and then you move on to the B conflict.
Yep.
So, and that's the thing is like I'm still trying to figure out what this movie's message is, because obviously for the first part it's like things are pretty bad, and then you're like, is this the alternative, or the gun's the alternative? Is surviving in a cabin the alternative? Because obviously this movie doesn't like guns or survivalists very much. So,
Okay,
all.
having been a little bit more of a child of the 80s than the rest of you youngsters, I kind of have to point out, did movies in the 80s have a message, or were they just, here's a good story, mindless entertainment, go have fun?
every movie has a message. Even Die Hard is like, hey, stay true to your wife. Fight for her because she's worth it. Don't
Really?
give up. There's always something more that you can do.
I thought his badass gene just kicked in, and he just was doing things like, it was just an expression of his genetics, really.
But possibly so. But it has implicit messages, because it implicitly tells you, hey, look, these people pretend to be terrorists, but in actuality, they're just greedy people. It tells you that John McClane's sort of an average schlub who, when the moment comes, can do the violent things to solve the problems to save his family.
That's actually a good point, because they never, they didn't do like the Lethal Weapon thing where it's like, oh no, he actually was in Vietnam and he was like a badass. Like John McClane was really just, no, I'm just a regular police officer, but I'm doing what needs to be done, kind of jazz. Like they never give him an excuse for doing the things he does.
They do
Except
not,
that he's a New York detective.
from the 80s. So I mean, that.
Obviously, anybody who can live in New York in the 80s can seriously kick butt.
And be a cop, I mean, of all things. But yeah, no. But basically, he is just a cop. He's just a guy. Like, one of the things I really love about Die Hard, we're gonna derail for a second because it's Die Hard. Is that he has air sickness.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things he does. That he takes off his shoes specifically because he thinks it will help him. He will do literally anything to get help with his problem with being on a plane. And it's really humanizing for a guy who's about to murder 12 dudes in a building.
And he did have that moment of, wow, this really did work. I can't believe that stupid idiot little hippie maneuver really worked.
And that's the thing, is that is the message of Die Hard. So even if it's something you agree with, it's I mean, look at 80s guy, right? That Hans shoots. 80s guy is just saying, hey, look, this guy thinks he's so in control of everything because of this, but he's not, because terrorists are bad people, and you can't just talk your way out of this. And that's what it says. So everything has a message in it, whether it intends to or not.
But isn't, I mean, I'm always interested about, and I'm definitely not going to, this is the only thing I'm going to say about this derail, but I'm always interested in kind of like, you said intents to or not, as far as like when you the very, like there is a lot of gray area, but in my mind there's always a line somewhere of what the medium intended to do versus what you're bringing to the table, and it's always, for me, fun to kind of explore where that line's drawn for different people.
Oh yeah. People always walk away with different things about it, but the last thing I want to say on this, the only time a story seems message neutral is when it so aligns with your own values you don't question what it's telling you.
Really? I don't think, like, I would say, because I didn't think there was a message here, and I don't know what values that are being aligned with.
Derek,
But
a
you-
lot of
Video
things about you,
games
man.
and
I
versus the 80s?
not
Say
really
again?
comfortable with you in the chat anymore.
What's that?
Like, really, tell me something that has improved in the last 10 years. And then the girl comes up with video games.
Yeah.
We can all get on that bandwagon. Video games have improved since the 80s.
No, they've gotten worse now.
But
Oh,
that's
God,
a whole other
8-bit.
conversation. That's a whole other conversation.
Let's get back to 8-bit.
Video games and gamers are the worst.
Yeah, which I definitely want to bitch about later. But you implicitly rejected the idea of New York as this uniformly useless cesspool of failed public services. The movie conflicts with your perceptions of that, and you call it into question. You challenge it. You criticize it because that's something that conflicts with you on some level. Like no matter how niggling, that's my take on it. And like, does that make sense?
I think you lost me, yeah. But
It presents that paradigm as true, that New York has failed public services. People pull guns on each other at the drop of a hat.
Right.
Parrots fire people.
yeah,
Walter Matthau doesn't give a shit about your problems. It delivers that premise to you as true.
Mhm.
And you specifically said, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's working for me. That's not a message which I fully get and internalize. I criticize it, and I see it merely as a series of unrelated events.
Okay.
So
I'm with you so far.
what it's trying to say to you conflicts with what you, Derek, perceive to be true. And
Okay.
we had a conversation where you said, hey, I do question this. I don't think this is an effective message. I don't get this.
Yep.
Because what it was saying didn't match with you. Its values didn't mesh with yours. And so you rejected them on some level.
Okay, so because I did recognize the values, I just didn't agree with them. That is still kind of the same thing as that's still different than not recognizing it has a message because it is so in line with my own internal values.
Right. But I didn't question that. I fully accepted that stuff as a premise. Now, if you go, did they really hire parrots to fire people in New York? I'd be like, well, yeah, no, probably not. But I had no problems with all of those things going together. I simply accepted them
Mm-hmm.
as part of a tapestry. I didn't question it at all. I
Mhm.
never thought, these are just unrelated things and doesn't match with the rest of the movie. I took it all in lock, stock, and smoking barrel because it aligned with what I pictured New York to be in the 80s.
Interesting.
Completely insane.
Anyway, oh yeah, basically. So, and that's my premise, and I feel like we're boring everyone else.
all of our bot viewers.
Well, yeah. But
Okay, so who liked the scene where, Robin Williams is trying to actually now save the assassin? And is like, no, I'm going to kill him, and I'm going to do it by myself, because that's how John Wayne would have done it.
Yeah, they're all- yep.
yeah, we definitely did the Randolph Scott bit on there because it was.
Randolph Scott.
Well, in Blazing Saddles, where he has the plan and he's
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Oh, we don't know if that'll do it." And he's like, "It's what Randolph Scott would do." And I'll go, Randolph.
Randolph Scott.
Yeah. So and that's basically how everyone reacted to John Wayne. I like that it was a callback to when Walter Matthau did it. So he kind of gets where Sonny's coming from with stuff at that point.
Yeah.
Because at that point he's rounded the corner and he's accepted, as Sonny has, the preference for peace and the preference to resolve things without
Right.
conflict.
I kind of like also too like I felt like his whole preference for peace, came from kind of him being in a war, and I like how he in the very beginning he's like I fought for that shit, so don't tell me what it is. And he's like, what war were you in? He's like, I was in the big one. And he's like, World War II? He's like, no, Korea. He's like, well, it felt pretty big to me. I'm like, well, yeah, no shit. Like, what kind of jerk is saying, like, oh, that's not the big one? I'm like, what motherfucker? Did you shoot some motherfucker? He's like, I don't think so. So
I would also
get off my
like to
dick.
say, like you're talking on that. That was one of the things I wanted to talk about. I had in my notes was that Walter Matthau, the one guy in the series who actually went to war, the guy who actually had like regular combat experience, never ever freaking shot or killed anybody. He actually was just trying to get away from everything. It was like he just did not want to deal with that shit anymore. And I thought that was a very good message, especially in that time period. Especially after you had these individuals that were shunning these guys, and he was just trying to get by.
Yeah.
You had you look at Rambo as a model for that, where these guys were all being tortured by society and kicked out and treated as vagrants.
Vietnam vet
Here he is.
specifically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
here he
you're
is
saying,
being
yeah,
that
okay.
guy, and he's just like, all I want is my freaking paycheck and to go home and hang out with my daughter and do my thing, and I have to deal with this crazy.
Actually, First Blood was released a year before that, interestingly. But I mean, I think it does say something about glorifying violence, in that you do have the assassin who says, "I place a premium on human life." $47,000 in 2014 dollars,
Yeah,
adjusted for inflation. 47,000. It's a lot of money. But I mean, you also have Wes, right? Wes is like, oh yes, we're preparing for the end times. Yes, all these other things. And Walter Matthau comes out and he reads from Douglas MacArthur, who, as I recall, is the most stable person, but it's a great quote. And Wes's stunning rebuttal is horseshit. And, they're like, oh yeah, John Wayne would do it. Like they reference John Wayne.
Right.
And what's her name? She's excited that they're getting shot at. It's exciting. It's fun. Yeah. And I think there is a message in there about the glorification of violence and how it doesn't solve as many problems as people like to think that it would.
Yep.
And that's one reason Robin Williams goes to the gun show and comes back with a huge crate of guns, because everyone who's sort of made him feel shitty over the past couple of days has had a gun. So the woman pulls a gun on him, makes him feel
good point.
Completely discombobulated, it's completely against everything he's expected at this point. He gets robbed again by a guy with a gun. They capture the killer. He has the gun, and he is really on top of things, and he's really in control for the first time since the movie's begun. Like, he does a little op-ed, which is, again, I think, him struggling to try to control people telling him to just sit down, shut up, and be quiet. So then he gets the gun, and that very same night, right, after he flashes the gun to police, and the police suddenly pay attention to him, he wants more guns, because he wants to be important. He wants to be in control again.
He actively says it. I really miss that gun.
Yeah.
Telling that to Sonny in the car. I really miss that gun.
And it flows really naturally with the character. Although I like Sonny. I like that Sonny wants to avoid conflict. I like that Sonny, everything Josh said about him. And obviously, Donald's in the wrong here. He's kind of an idiot. But it's interesting to note that no matter how nice the assassin is, Sonny is willing to let him go just for his own little corner of security. I mean, Sonny's just actually kind of part of the problem, that he doesn't give a shit about Robin Williams or anything else happening in his life up until, they're legally bound together in the eyes of this assassin. Whereas Donald's at least willing to pick up and try to do things and try to say, hey, look, things shouldn't be this way. It's, I don't know. I seem to get that from those characters and how they were portrayed. I feel like I'm rambling.
It goes a step further on that. You're looking at it, and you can almost say too that it shows that no matter in the end, the person who actually doesn't give a shit, Sonny's character, winds up like basically having the most stable incidents out of all of this. He goes home with his daughter at the end of it. Yeah. And you look at the guy who's supposed to be the quote-unquote hero, who's trying to change because the world is bad, and he's trying to help, view the world. Freaking Robin Williams' character, he winds up at the end of it, falling the fuck apart. That he's, that the world won't change because of one person, which is actually a very bleak and dark message at the end of it when you look at it.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's at the end of it, like, he is completely stripped down. Everything he's believed in has been taken from him twice. And
it's shown physically, which I thought was actually a really artsy move. It's usually I try to pick out, but when he's like taking his clothes off and everything, I'm like, oh, like this is him being naked before the world.
I like also too that he doesn't pick up his clothes.
He doesn't. He leaves it behind, and Sonny gives him his coat.
Right.
Which is a complete contrast to their first encounter.
In addition to, you could also, if you wanted to kind of overreach, you could also say that Robin Williams from here on out is going to adopt, Sonny's kind of perspective on dealing with like shit in the world by taking his coat.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I could see that as well.
But
that whole scene of him stripping off his clothes and everything, it reminded me of that cutaway in Scrubs where Turk and JD go to see Michael Jordan, and they both brought sandwiches instead of the tickets, and Turk starts pulling his hair out. JD goes, and JD goes to pick it up, and he goes, "No, leave it there. Leave it there."
Leave it on the ground.
Yeah.
But I think that was the closest thing in the movie that like that was a really good look at a complete mental breakdown. There at the end, he just broke. He's broken down. He's completely tripped. Whereas before, all of the crap with his "I want a gun" or reactions to things were like him, trying to keep it together. This is him finally just done.
Yeah. Which, if you're gonna cast Robin Williams, having an agenda of a complete mental breakdown is probably a good move.
Yeah, people accept that. So yeah.
Also, what is it with Walter Matthau being in movies where he gets to wear that hat all the time?
Grumpy old man.
Iconic.
It's his rider. Oh, is that what it is? What is it?
Every time he put on that stupid hat, my brain flashed to grumpy old men.
Yeah, they filmed that was cold there. I don't want that hat, but no. What is it where an actor submits a list of demands to you before they do your thing? It's like a rider or a spec. I forget what it's called.
I think a rider sounds right.
Yeah.
This is actually Richard's expertise in the Hollywood in the film industry may or may not prevail here.
I know, right? But all right. So, any other topics I wanted to cover? Do we talk about video games or do final thoughts?
We can do final thoughts. I mean, I don't know if we want to keep this pleasant as it has been so far. We might want to take our video game rants offline.
Yeah, we can do final thoughts. We can talk about the movie we're watching next week, and then we can just do video game rant at the end of this. And so that way, whoever doesn't want to get involved with that,
Yeah, they just stop it.
Pale out. So
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, good. No, I was prompting somebody to do it.
Oh. I'm not going to be first. So yeah, final thoughts were I felt like the movie was a bit like I felt like it was a bit long and there was it was a bit tedious early on, and I felt like it was a bit it's like all just these little bits, but if in my mind I felt like if I could trim them, if I could just trim them ever so slightly and add a few more contiguous pieces, that this would have been much better movie. But as it stands, it was pleasant.
Okay.
Finished.
No, go ahead.
Okay, fine. I'm going to agree with Derek on a lot of things. I don't think it needed it anymore. I think that for what it did, it's kind of like Watchmen, where Watchmen so ponderously hammers home like the impending nuclear war bit, and then it ends up being kind of a ponderous movie in its own right. So like I think they spend so long establishing that message and that theme and that tone that it does suffer for it. I think they could have tightened up the front end and gotten to the Robin Williams being Robin Williams part.
Yeah,
it would be a much better movie. I still really like this movie. And Jerry Reed was pretty hot in it, so that's all I got.
Handsome guy. I think this movie. Let's see. I like it. I don't love it. I like it. I think it's like they were trying to go for something a bit more high concept early on, but it fell through because, well, Robin Williams, and it turned into a more standard 80s movie towards the end, and then brought it back together with the whole Robin Williams walking away, stripping off his clothes, and although I will also finish with this, Sonny, you could do better. Get a different friend.
I know, right?
Yeah, seriously, you could find one anywhere. There are better people than Robin Williams. I mean,
Donald. Something. Yeah. So.
But yeah, so overall, pretty good movie.
Donald Quinnell.
Yeah, Sonny Paluzzo. Yeah. So, all right, Josh, Katie.
I just don't. I don't know if you want to go last, Katie. I would take the hit for you, whichever you. I don't really care.
Oh, I have to have a final thought.
You don't have to.
No, you don't have to.
Pass.
Okay. I feel this movie was kind of like this discussion, all over the place, and not necessarily always about what it was intending, but it did manage to have a message at the end, which I hadn't really thought too much about till we started discussing it. But overall, having discussed it now and thought a little bit more about it, I can definitely see the artistic intent in some parts of it, and I think it was a decent film. It wasn't, up to the standard of other films that I've enjoyed with that artistic intent, like
Yeah.
Labyrinth del Fauno, the Pan's Labyrinth, things like that. But it definitely had that element to it, and I enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah. I can't see how maybe like there was an intent to make like a Robin Williams survivalist movie, and it kind of grew backwards from that, a little bit misshapen. In a bad
Robin
way.
Williams is like, I'm going to destroy this idea as much as possible.
Well, I mean,
That's my
like,
job.
we all love the last half of it.
Hmm.
So it's my impression is that once the bullets start flying and Robin Williams starts getting wacky in a snowsuit, we're good. Maybe not.
I 100% agree.
That was my
Maybe I completely misread this.
So I think from that crack on, we're in for a pretty good ride. It's just everything before that isn't what you want from a Robin Williams movie. So anyway, next week we have the Fisher King and Hook tied. I don't know if we broke that tie or not earlier. I can't recall.
I don't think we did. I don't remember us breaking it.
Okay.
We can have a random number
probably
generator.
Do that now.
Yeah,
People vote in chat.
we're reasonable people. We can talk about it.
Well, wait, some of us are reasonable.
Look, the birdcage is unrestrained humor, right? This movie was kind of a
I
balance.
can't.
So do we want to do Hook, which is I think a little heavier but still pretty funny, or do we want to do the Fisher King, which is also a little heavier but still pretty funny? Never mind. Never mind.
No, I feel like Fisher King. Oh, at least I remember from when I was a child, Fisher King being like kind of heavy, and so if we want to transition to like pure comedy, it might be better to do Fisher King, Hook, Birdcage.
Actually, way I see it, we have two options, of course. But here's what the options really are: will watching Hook make Fisher King better, or will watching Fisher King make Hook better?
I think watching. Well, I think that Birdcage. I think Fisher King's a little heavier. That's my opinion. I think Birdcage would be a good follow-up to that, because no matter how heavy Fisher King is, Birdcage is just pure white Robin Williams joy. I think it's a good way to finish it up.
I'm also going to pretend in Birdcage that he's the same character from Survivors.
That's possible. It starts a whole new life. You find true happiness.
My votes can be Fisher King, Hook.
Yeah. And even though it's not in there, I'm going to insert a scene where he talks about that time he was part of that survivalist group.
No, there's a part where Gene Hackman comes around a corner too fast, and he just freaking disarms him and throws him to the ground.
Kato?
Yeah.
Not tonight, Kato. I need this.
All right.
Sorry. We watched an episode of 30 Rock where we watched an episode of 30 Rock where Jack Donaghy, Alec Baldwin, feels like he's losing his edge, so he's hired Kato to randomly attack him.
Yeah, he's hired a Kato to randomly attack him.
Yeah, a Kato. So he'll go somewhere. He's like, Kato, okay, if you're here, don't attack me. I know I said that when I say that, that's when I need to be attacked the most, but this time I mean it. Then the lights go out and something jumps on him. Great job, Kato.
30 Rock is great on so many levels. It's a shining gem in sitcomness.
So, Josh, which one did you say? Hook, Fisher King, Fisher King.
I said Hook, and that's actually just different reasons altogether. Like I'm really curious to see how it holds up to my my childhood memories of it. You know? I'm almost willing to be disappointed at this point, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am also incredibly curious about Hook. All right, Katie, Terry, any strong feelings one way or the other?
I have never actually seen The Fisher King, and I have seen Hook multiple times, though it's been a while.
Okay.
I'm going with Hook. Why? Because I don't want any ties.
All right, so next week we'll watch Hook, we'll watch Fisher King after that. And I think we're good.
Cool.
All right. Bueno.
All right.
The video game.
Now we're going to start. Oh, God. Like when she's like, yeah, what's gotten better in 10 years? Video games. I'm like, from the mouth of a teenage girl.
In the 80s. Like,
this fucking week. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to take it off air?
I don't know. I don't give a shit. Yeah.
From the mouth
Let
of
it all
Baker.
succeed. We will.
Huh.
Yeah. Josh is the only one going to be getting death threats, and he's the one that has a camera on.
Yeah, fair enough.
No,
I'm
you-
gonna,
Chris has one too.
well,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
gonna
yeah.
go drop a wicked deuce, so y'all enjoy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go burn one real quick. So
Yeah, I'm
y'all
gonna-
can start the discussion that way.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
get some
Chris
liquor.
stuck up.
I'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
So, time out.
Intermission, everyone.
We're gonna hold. We're gonna hold.
No. Still there, Katie?
Yep.
Cool. How things been going?
Diana has strep.
Whoa.
That's about how things have been going right now.
That's unfortunate.
Started last Wednesday. I mean, Tuesday night she was a little restless. I thought maybe it was just nightmares because we tried taking her temperature with one of those forehead thingies. And it was like, yeah, no problem, she's fine. So I take her into school Thursday morning and I get a call about, oh wait a minute, no, Wednesday. I take her into school and Wednesday afternoon they're like, you have to come pick her up. He's running a fever of in excess of 100. And I'm like, dang it. So I go pick her up. Terry and I can't really take off of work, so my parents take her Wednesday night to watch her on Thursday. And she's still running fever all that day, so my mom takes her into the doctor and they're like, hey, strep. We're like, great. It's like, okay, don't eat after her, don't drink after her. Too late. Wash the pillowcases after the antibiotics been in her by Saturday or Sunday. Get her a new toothbrush.
Yep.
All that fun stuff. So the fever's not as bad now because it was like 103-ish, 102-ish earlier, and now it's just down to the hundreds. But it's still not very much fun.
Yeah. I can see that.
That, and it's like one of the first serious times she's been ill in years.
Is she 4 now, or is she still 3?
She'll be 4 in the 22nd.
She has entertainingly vomited on things, though.
No, my ass.
That's happened.
That's a
I
thing.
remember hearing about them.
Hey, it was the iPad on the way home from Halloween, what, when she was 2?
Ooh.
3?
I don't know. She's always been 2. I'm just gonna like save the software update and update her to 4 from this year.
Got it.
You can just go from blob to 2 and then to 4. Yeah. So I'm good. Is Josh still smoking?
Yes.
It seems like he would have been back by now.
No.
Maybe I just don't have a good handle on Josh's smoking cycle.
Terry, are you back? That's
Yes.
a really important question. Check this out.
We are still broadcasting, by the way.
That doesn't matter.
I'm just
The,
letting you know.
Oh. I think you're the only other person I know that watched Outlaw Star, right?
Me.
Cool. So he makes a caster gun.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Ah,
At least I think it does.
It does look pretty da bomb.
I thought it was neat.
It's pretty neat. Let's see. So anyway,
So
Yeah, how you want to kick off the shindig? We're waiting for Josh to get back.
yeah.
How have you been, Terry?
doing okay. Hey, dealing with a sick daughter. Yeah, some changes at work and
Good
stuff.
changes, bad changes,
It changes.
indifferent.
Mm, good, bad and or good. We got another shift bid coming up, so that
Ah.
always means a possibility of changing a schedule. And I'm trying to keep my same schedule, but I don't think anybody's going to pull it out from under me because I'm like fourth in line.
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty good.
The other three, well, I was actually first, but then they had to adjust the timetable to determine this ranking because one of the people involved was actually working for a different department as a temp thing for the first 2 weeks from where it started. So those 2 weeks pushed me from first to fourth. So I'm like, dicks.
It's really weird that like this whole bidding war thing for schedules is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's it's kind of fair, and frankly, I'm pro it because it means that the one guy who gets special privileges because as he sucks up to the site director,
Mm-hmm.
his ranking is terrible because he doesn't do the actual job that we all do.
Yeah.
So he's like a 14, but that's nice but he'll still go and cry until he gets the schedule that he wants.
Uh-huh.
And that'll be literally making a schedule just for him, so it doesn't really affect the rest of us anyway, except that he still doesn't do enough of the work compared to what we do.
Well, I'm learning that me and corporate America are just wild. I'm entertaining thoughts of academia, but that had its own set of bullshit as well.
Yes, it does.
No, not like high school academia, like PhD, research and development stuff.
Yeah, no, I know somebody who teaches at the college level, and yes, it does. There is still a whole new level of bullcrap to deal with at that level. It kind of follows you to almost any job where you're not literally working for yourself, and even that has its own pitfalls, apparently.
You know what job pays well? Assassin.
$48,000
$48,000 a hit, man.
That's really not a lot.
For a year.
Not unless you're killing a bunch of people, and then you've got that offset of, you done screwed up and they caught you at it.
Well,
You kill 2 people a year. I think that would cover overhead and still leave you with a comfortable amount of money to work with. and then you can just do freelance stuff. The rest of the time, just rough folks up.
You could you kind of a front as like a plumber. This is like really bad at his job.
Yeah.
Like that's why you have like W-2s and shit.
That's right in the book. Yeah.
So I guess now none of us can be assassins.
No, we'd be the last people they suspect because we're so open about it. That's how it works. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think there's some sort of manual somewhere at the FBI or Interpol.
Or you could be a cop. I mean, the standards are pretty low. No one suspects you for having guns. You understand the legal system. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as long as you make enough friends, you can just straight up murder a kid in the streets and it don't even matter.
Yeah. So.
Are we really taking this to Ferguson?
I'm just saying.
Well, it's definitely a thing that happened, and it's happened before, and will probably happen again, unfortunately.
It seems to be a perk of being a cop. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that seems fair.
So.
Fair enough.
I'm just saying.
Coloring a lot of people with a brush of a very few. Like, every time I hear about some teacher doing something wrong on the news, that's usually all you hear about is, the teacher that did the screw up, not the rest of us that are basically doing our jobs the right way.
That's true. But on the other hand, if you have, every week, every 2 weeks, a teacher doing that exact same thing on the news, like that would be an institutional problem. So it's like zero tolerance policies, dress codes, like that shit's kind of bananas. I can probably go back like once every other month. There's some ridiculous case of a kid getting thrown out for being a distraction. Like girls who have tank tops on, girls who have skirts that are too short getting thrown out of classrooms for allegedly distracting dudes. And it's like, dudes, you could just fucking focus on it. Or
focus on your work, yeah.
Like the most egregious one I think was some black kids. And like their natural hairstyle, just having like how it lays naturally, getting thrown out of school for having a distracting haircut. It's like, guys, it's like you can, I guess, demand that your kids pay, maybe hundreds of dollars for straightener and shit, but that's pretty fucked up if you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say over where I'm at, we usually only do the, could you please not dye it purple, pink, or something not in the range of human hair color?
Mm.
That's our limit on distracting hairstyles.
No macrossing. Damn it.
Yeah.
I cursed that one in my head.
We're pretty even about we're pretty even about the sleeveless stuff. It's guys and girls. And the boys aren't allowed to wear the short skirts either.
See, that's sort of the false.
That's kind of, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's good. It seems like a pretty laid back policy. But you can get news articles of.
There will always be an institution out there that will screw it up for everybody else.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm not. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a question of whether it is just one institution or whether it's a systemic problem. So, and that's
there are problems with systems. None of them are perfect.
Right.
We're much more tuned to arguing about them than we are to fixing them.
Well, yeah, that's true. Like every problem about education, people are more prone to argue about than actually fix. I'm just saying that once. At what point does it go from, hey, look, this is an isolated incident. No school's going to be perfect. Things are going to happen. People are going to make bad choices or just have an off day. And, I've done that as a manager at FYE, just saying, like, no, you can't do that. And then thinking, that was stupid. You should be able to do that. So, like, you have to make, quick, definitive judgments, and there aren't always the right one. That's going to frickin' happen. But after a certain point, it becomes a trend where you go, this is some people fucking up. This is an institutional problem where this behavior has been acceptable and needs to be changed from the top down. And different people have different levels where they're going to see one instead of the other. And I think that... Sorry. I think that is the issue. I don't think anyone here believes that unarmed kids should be shot in the street. It's just whether or not the cases that you see of it are justified cases and whether the number is inflated by the media or indicative of a larger problem. So anyway.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with almost anybody who is not posing a viable threat, weapons, bombs, anything else like that, mad martial arts skills. Yeah, nobody like that should be, shot in the street.
Powering up in the streets, DB.
Exactly. I'm sorry. If you're doing that, I think you're an event.
Shoot him! Get the cannons! Call out from the car!
So
all I can think is that movie where the guy goes, "Oh, that's a kill shot. It's a kill shot."
Yeah, and that's, and then once someone is dead, like there's only one witness left, and that's the killer, and that's the pretty fucked up situation. Because my understanding of the legal system is that if you have to shoot a person, you better fucking kill him, because then you can protect your ass, like regardless of whether you were a little justified or completely unjustified or totally justified. And that's pretty fucked up. I mean, I get why it is the way it is. I'm not saying. Oh. Anyway, that seems to be the way things are, and I think that's also pretty fucked up. But anyway, Josh, whenever you said, "Are we really bringing Ferguson into this?" I should have realized that you were back, and we go
Everything
ahead
is
and just
fucked up
about
in
video
here.
games. Oh god, video games. Video games is fucking weak. Have you guys ever heard of Depression Quest?
I have.
Oh, of course you have.
I
Damn
have
it, Derek.
only Gamergate.
What's that?
I have, but after you left, Derek clarified it was talking about Gamergate, and I knew what
Yeah.
y'all were talking about then. So
Yeah. So it's right. So it was made by a lady named Zoe Quinn. Zoe with two E's over it, and just who knows, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's a text-based game about depression, where eventually the character that you are playing becomes more and more depressed. So there are options you see, you simply cannot choose them
Yep.
because of how far down you've gone. Indie game, I think 100 people played it. It wasn't like a big hit. It wasn't even well critically reviewed from what I remember. I think
it was
some
critically
people.
reviewed, just not done. Like it wasn't. There were a lot of critical reviews. You're getting on the topic right there, so go ahead.
Well, no, I the only thing I really know about the critical response is that A, generally it wasn't overwhelmingly good, and two, it was suspected that some of that response was unduly influenced, which I'll get to later. But I'm not sure what you know about the critical response to it in general.
In general, it was more considered innovative in the sense that a game was tackling depression. Not so much like, so you normally review games based off of, gameplay and other kind of traditional elements, but this is kind of one of those things, yeah. But this is one of the things where just kind of one aspect of it kind of is just so far to the right that you can't not talk about it. And so you can say yes, because she also specializes in games that are like Zoe Quinn specializes in indie developer games. She also specializes in games that are have a quick turnaround where you can do them in game jams and stuff. So you spend years doing them. You spend a weekend or maybe a week.
Makes sense.
Or a month. But for a month, for what it was and for the subject it tackled, it was both ambitious and innovative, and that was kind of why it got a lot of attention.
Okay. So anyway. Recently, one of her ex-boyfriends, I guess, went on to, was it 4chan? Was it Reddit?
Oh, it was 4chan
Both?
initially. And,
4chan?
Yeah.
I think it made him a 9gag too.
Oh, okay. I don't really know. I've seen 9gag stuff around. I just assumed they were another, clickbait faux article thing. They actually have original content and stuff, or is it sort of like a forum? I have no idea.
I don't either, but I think I remember reading the article stating that it was on 9gag as well, but
Okay.
no, I don't know.
All right. So, anyway, she apparently slept with a guy who wrote for, was it Kotaku? It was someone. And so all these gamers are really angry. They're just super angry. Roll 1d6 and see what they're angry about.
Yeah.
But the surface level angry seemed to be she had an unfair advantage making her game because she was sleeping with the dude. She got a good review out of it because she was sleeping with the dude. And then she claimed that she something video games and then hypocrisy.
Yeah. So it pretty much degenerates
Yeah, it degenerates from there.
Yeah, I mean basically, he goes in and kind of publishes a lot of her personal information because he's a jilted lover and he feels like he's entitled to do that. And then everyone takes this information and using internet stalker tactics, find out additional information. She was literally getting calls at former places of employment trying to get more information about her.
Yep.
And that's the level of fucked up-itude this shit gets to. Just because she's a woman that makes video games. It had nothing to do with, obviously it doesn't have anything to do with any sort of ethics or morality because this shit has happened way before she came into the picture and no one ever batted an eye.
Yeah. Well, Right. So she got harassed. There was a doxing, which means they just take public documents or whatever documents they can
As
get,
much as they can find.
publish
Yeah.
them publicly, and
Yeah.
it's so they dox her. They put up her personal information, addresses, pictures. I don't know when her nude photos came out of it, but
I don't remember her.
that's what happened.
I thought it was like a Jennifer Lawrence thing. I didn't think she had nude photos as well.
Zoe Quinn nude photos came out
Oh, that's-
contemporaneously with the Jennifer Lawrence thing. Right. So, sorry, I need to get my tracks here. Yeah. So, so 4chan gets angry. They start a campaign. They call her.
Right.
They call her father. She obviously gets threats
Yeah.
of
Yep.
just general violence, death, rape, you name it.
Everything that 4chan does when it gets angry.
Yes, in a really coordinated way. I think, just like Derek said, former places for employment, they were getting calls for people trying to get information or just generally harassing them.
Yep.
And then in the midst of that happening, Anita Sarkeesian, who I think most of you guys are familiar with, she does tropes versus women.
Yep.
In video games, where she basically talks about storytelling crutches that top shelf game designers use, and how they portray women, how they impact women, and how maybe do that so much.
Yep.
She did a Kickstarter a while back. People got hate. She got hate for it. Sing along with me: violence, death threats, rape threats, doxing, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I kind of faded out, but then she releases the 6th installment of this year, in the middle of all this, and suddenly she's getting all of that as well.
Yep.
So she and Zoe both have to leave where they live because of doxing.
The cops themselves have said you should not stay at your residence.
Yep.
Is there somewhere else you can go?
Yeah. So they both have to leave where they live.
Right.
Games journalists refuse to dignify any of this with an article. It's not corruption and gaming coverage or this dude totally sold out his integrity for her because the dude that she slept with never wrote a review for Depression Quest.
Yep.
I think he mentioned her once before they had sex.
Yeah, before they started dating, and it wasn't even like it was a neutral mention. It had nothing to do with go play this game. It was just she was part of a game jam.
So then Kotaku released this statement about the principles they hold their writers to, and how they are going to try to have that be more transparent in the future. And for some reason, you might notice in all of this, we're mentioning a lot about Zoe Quinn, but not the dude she slept with, because even though he's the person who would be selling out reviews for sex,
yeah,
right?
I don't know his name.
He's the guy, and no one cares because he's not the one getting harassed, even though he is the guy who would be taking bribes to write good reviews in this hypothetical scenario. No one seems to give a shit about him for some reason. It's weird that buying a good review is somehow unacceptable, but selling good reviews, fine.
And then
peep.
even though buying a good review is disingenuous because that happens and it's been known to happen. There's no world in which EA Sports or any kind of the big names don't say, hey, come over here, we're gonna wine and dine you. By the way, we know an article that you're writing about our games coming up. Or here's a game, we're gonna let you play this game in the best possible conditions, and you're going to write the review about it. I mean, it's pretty transparent with anyone with two brain cells to rub together.
Well, game journalism is based a lot on access. So if you want to be a cutting-edge games journalist, you have to have access, and to get access, you have to have good relations with the publishers. So that's a legitimate point of critique for people who want games journalists to be independent, to give them fair opinions on games, and to be, to not take bribes for stuff. But
at the same time, okay.
But the deal is that there are a lot of more egregious examples of people pushing that line and blurring that line.
Yep.
Bigger companies doing this for shittier games.
Yep.
That suddenly everyone's really, really pissed about this, which isn't. It is a problem. I can see how it would be bad if it had actually happened.
Yep. Well, it's a
And
2X.
certainly, yep.
I was just saying 2X chromosomes enter the picture, and that's when everyone loses their shit.
Yeah, it seemed that way. It seemed like a woman used sex to get ahead, which I think is it's a fear that people have that somehow women get somewhere in an industry not based on merit, but based upon their ability to have sex with people, which is just
Never mind.
weird.
Yeah, never mind that males can also get further in a chosen profession without any sort of merit-based reasons for doing so.
It's a uniquely female. It's a fear uniquely directed to females. Just like
Yeah.
people say that successful black people only got there because of affirmative action,
Exactly.
which both
Undercuts their success and lessens it.
yes, assumes right off the bat that they're not capable of getting where they are, and two, assumes they can never be qualified to get where they are, and that it paints white dudes as being completely disenfranchised or somehow disadvantaged simply because like 80% of the people in the industry are white dudes. Yeah.
I was going to say, hey, isn't it an interesting two-pronged misogynistic situation? Because, one, it's misogynistic to believe if a woman gets ahead by sleeping with people, and going to town on her because it's presented as a possibility.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the way that they harass her because of that, simply because they assume she has no
merit.
Yeah, and then the way that they go at her and harass her and threaten to rape her, and it happens because of you can identify females in the industry by name specifically because there's so few of them.
Right. And then on top of that, let's say, okay, let's take everything that we've picked apart up until now as let's say it was true. Let's say it was
like
all
3 days worth of the story, but yeah.
Let's say it was all true. How does that even justify the tactics? Like, how does that even justify any sort of tactics that have been employed against a certain situation? As far as oh well, yeah, she had sex with so and so I am justified in death threats, rape threats, harassment. It's that's another part I don't understand, and it's very frustrating. Is that you're kind of talking about wanting to be taken seriously, all the while engaging in activities that people who aren't capable of logic that should be taken seriously. I don't. It blows my mind.
There's 3 main actors, and the structure's more complicated than that. But there's 3 main structures here. There are people who want this to be about game ethics, who honestly believe that there are legitimate grievances here, and they are trying to engage publicly and talk to people and change their minds, who are not part of coordinated harassment campaigns, who are not sending hate mail, who are legitimately concerned about Gamergate. There's those guys. Yep. Then there's guys who are just angry and they just want to go out and do a thing. And maybe they're trolls. Maybe this is a nice way to spend a slow games release span because they got nothing else to do, right?
Yeah. And they have certain skills that they want to use for just of any thinly veiled reason they can find.
Exactly. Restive folks and people who want to be more proactive. And they're the ones sending threats. And they're in the same group, on the same hand, obviously very different people. And then you have people who say that the harassment is awful, say that it's bad, and they're doing exactly the same thing that the second group is doing. So they kind of speak out of one side of their mouth and then with the other. So in that they're all the same group, you see a little bit of the first group try to distinguish themselves, try to say, hey, look, we're gonna engage with games journalism, because I mentioned the journalists did not dignify this for the first couple days, and in fact a lot of their responses were fuck off. I know the Comics Alliance article they put up there, someone anonymously messaged the Tumblr account like, hey, why didn't you acknowledge that these women have actually done awful things in this article you wrote about it? And the Comics Alliance response was simply, go fuck yourself. That's from their official Tumblr feed.
Yep.
And if you feel you have a legitimate grievance, and this is a lot of things that games journalists put on their Twitter accounts, the way that they were engaging with these stupid motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But if you feel you have a legitimate grievance, you believe that you are simply being shut out and ignored. And it's what every conspiracy theory does, because eventually a big conspiracy theory did jump up after these journalists. But
Yep.
it's what the conspiracy theory feeds on, because if people agree with you, then you're obviously right. If people disagree with you, then you can engage them and talk about it, and you have a platform to talk about it. If people shut you out because you are fucking bugnuts loco, then suddenly you are too dangerous for the mainstream to acknowledge. So, like, there is no real correct response to these guys, but they were dismissed, sometimes cleverly, by games journalists as a group, simply because they weren't deemed credible. So that made them think they were even more persecuted, and they actually started constructing some pretty impressive conspiracy theories. I came into Gamergate whenever Jim Sterling, who does Jim Inquisition, posted a list of social justice warriors that these Gamergate guys. This is before the hashtag came out, are like, don't under any circumstances read their articles or participate with them or support them at all. And it's like Kotaku, no one on Kotaku, and like they listed individual people. And I'm like, I want to follow these motherfuckers on Twitter. And I'm glad that I did. So that's how I came into it. So these guys started blacklisting people with the platform to talk about games en masse, which is pretty fucking stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they like to portray themselves as having kind of all the cards, and it's like, oh well, you need us. It's like, no, actually, there are plenty of sane people that still like to play video games, and you're actually a pretty small minority that's just super vocal.
Right, and it's reasonable to think that we're gamers, we are the people who care about games, we are the people who are going to go to games websites and actually read these articles. And I don't know, like, these games journalists may have cut off their own nose. Not really to spite their face, but in order to get plastic surgery more easily. The metaphor kind of falls apart. But
yeah, it does.
they may have, I don't know, sliced open the golden calf that laid the golden eggs full of geese. I don't know. Like, it might have been ultimately self-destructing for them to engage with these guys in this way. It does not seem that way right now. But the thing is, if gamer means nothing, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. So anyway, gamers think that they're being marginalized, so they create conspiracy theories.
Yep.
Games journalists don't even want to dignify this shit.
Yep.
What was the next big thing that happened? I want to say Adam Baldwin got involved after that.
Did he really? I did not know that.
Adam Faux Baldwin got involved. Yeah.
Adam Faux Baldwin.
He's a faux Baldwin. You say Adam Baldwin, people are like, which Baldwin? It's like, no, it's Adam Faux Baldwin. So
Firefly.
Jane from Firefly. So he gets involved because it's PAX weekend, and so like on top of everything else, Anita Sarkeesian released Tropes versus Women. Zoe Quinn's caught up in this Jilted X thing. PAX is happening, so the gamer dudes, I think around this time, start hashtagging Gamergate because they're trying to get credibility, trying to get people on their side, trying to spread their message. Wait, I'm sorry. Adam Baldwin coined the term Gamergate because someone gets him involved, and he's like, "Oh, it's awful that women." Because Adam Faux Baldwin, if you guys did not know, is actually pretty hardcore conservative guy. So
I don't know that.
Yeah. So anyway, he and Chuck Norris. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Oh, I do know Chuck Norris, which is kind of sad.
Okay, I'm saying he and Chuck Norris could do like duets on the stage with like Huckabee.
Boy, could they!
So he's a pretty conservative guy, and I like Kelsey Grammer. Kelsey Grammer's a conservative guy, a conservative actor, and there are a lot of conservatives in Hollywood, and I would appreciate a little more diversity because you're like, Hollywood's pretty liberal. I agree with some of you guys, but I don't know. I want celebrity balance, but that's not going to happen because you have Adam fucking Faux Baldwin. So he gets involved. He coins the term Gamergate. He gets a lens of geeks to get into this whole fucking thing who don't know anything but his take on it.
Yep.
Because it's that bias where the first thing you hear is the most credible.
Right.
So Slayer's a whole new torrent. The fires are still all over again. God bless you.
Thanks.
There's supposed to be this big protest at PAX. There's no protest at
Yeah,
PAX.
that was pretty funny.
There is supposed to be people asking Zoe Quinn, because Zoe Quinn's on the panel at PAX. There's supposed to be people asking her like hard questions about this at her panel. That doesn't happen. You see stories on the internet about it, but not really.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess coming out of last weekend, the deal you had is a bunch of gamers who felt marginalized, who felt like social justice warriors were taking games away from them. I was never exactly clear on the apocalyptic scenario they were trying to avoid.
Yeah, I didn't get like what it. Okay, so
What
like
are the stakes?
yeah, like show like words are cheap. So show me the thing. Show me what happened that they're taking away from you. Like show me that. Like I want you to point to a very specific example that you are less able to enjoy video games now because of a thing. Like where is it?
Sometimes whenever you're playing Dragon Age 2, others will hit on you, and if you're gay, that's like super uncomfortable. If you're straight, I'm sorry, you're super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, but again, I don't want to. I mean, that's the story point I want to hit on. In the middle of that weekend, you start seeing all these articles about how gamers are dead. The gaming identity is gone. There's no such thing as gamers anymore. There are fucking assholes on the internet, and then there are people who play games, which is fucking everyone. Everyone but the chick in Pakistan with the eyes who was on the cover of National Geographic. Everyone but her, basically.
Yeah.
So
it's funny that I know the exact thing you're talking about.
I don't know if you know this or not. I know what you're talking about too, but they actually revisited her to see what she looked like about 20 years later.
she looks alright. I mean, she's being 40 in like Pakistan, I think. Was it Pakistan or Afghanistan?
I don't remember.
I know all the Yusufazis from Pakistan. It's hard to keep straight.
Yeah.
all the fuzzies. But yeah.
Malala Yousafzai is a fucking amazing human being.
I thought you were making a reference to how a lot of the names of the cities inside of Pakistan are like Ajam isn't like have like weird like last suffixes.
Yeah.
Um,
No, she's the girl who got shot in the head for being a proponent of girls getting an education.
Yeah, that very controversial belief, which is like, fuck me, man. Well, no, I know it is. I'm just saying, like, by any sane person's standard, like, oh, really? You want to read a book? Well, we should shoot you in the head.
I know.
Because that's a rational, like, thought process.
Well, that's...
Hey, if women read books, they're witches.
Yeah, and that's... It's a very similar thing, because in the midst of all these gamers are dead things, someone actually compared... There were guys having Kickstarters to create video series against Anita Sarkeesian. Because if you think Anita Sarkeesian is scamming people, which is another complaint they threw against her, then why not get in on that sweet corruption money?
Yeah.
So
sweet corruption money. Which I mean,
these guys are like,
yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with some of. I don't necessarily agree with some of Anita Sarkeesian's kind of decisions, tactics, or analysis. Yeah. But I do not feel compelled to like harass her. Like I don't think it's a problem to have dissent. You say, look, I think something's wrong here. I'm like, good deal. Let's have a conversation about it. But if you can't engage in that conversation in a civilized fashion, then you're just a petulant child. Like, there's no room here.
I don't agree. I don't agree with you. Let me masturbate because I have better things to do. B, rebut your arguments. C, threaten to rape you because I want you to shut up.
Right.
At what point does your brain go so wrong that C is your option?
Yeah.
And to their defense, just now they have guys that are making bullshit videos rebutting her arguments, and it's like, anyway. But it's nitpicking because, again, I've watched her videos, and I'm like, there's one or two things I'd contest here, but generally I just don't like your presentation or your attitude. So, I mean, but I don't even want to engage you. I'm just gonna fucking got a whole Tumblr full of hot guys here.
It's a viable opinion. You're entitled to have it.
Well, be careful, Chris. You don't want to get reverse crying gamed again.
Reverse crying game.
I was on Tumblr, and I'm like, it's top down, so I'm like, those are nice shoulders, those are nice pecs, nice abs. That's a vagina. That's no good.
Womp, womp, womp. It's a woman. It's a woman.
It's only fair, like millions of people saw the crying game.
Yeah,
And whenever I saw the crying game, I'm like, that's a man in his barbershop. So, like, I wasn't surprised when it happened. I'm like, yes, that's a penis. That's what happens when a man takes off his pants. I wish people not understand that. They think they're the only one. So,
it's don't understand this. Is good.
It's only fair. It's only fair. So, but yeah, no.
You were attracted to a woman.
Nice facts. Anyway. Besides, there's Tilda Swinton and like, what's her name? Fucking Sigourney Weaver. So.
Oh yeah.
It's not exclusive.
That doesn't count. Everyone's attracted to her.
Yeah, but say it. I don't care.
Right.
I honestly don't really care what gender Sigourney Weaver is. Like, I will.
Yeah.
She's very attractive.
It's like David Bowie. I mean, you guys aren't gay for liking David Bowie.
There's some things you just get a pass on.
Exactly. Elves, David Bowie, Tilda Swinton. Yeah.
Well, there are no male elves. Everyone knows that.
Anyway,
That makes sense. I guess Orlando just needs to change his name to Orlando or something.
no, he can be Orlando. It's still not gay. He's an elf. I mean,
Well, that's the whole thing is that there's no male elves, so.
Anyway.
Elves have naming conventions.
So these guys write these things and they compare the dudes who are doing the Kickstarters to terrorists because this is a wide-reaching, concerted effort to scare people with fear of their own physical safety into accepting a certain social paradigm.
Which I think this kind of brings up an interesting point as well. This is maybe like a brief aside, but I think that we need another word in between like mean person and terrorism. I'm not saying that like what they did was right. But at the same time, they're not the IRA. They're not cutting people's heads off. Let's not go all the way. Yeah, ISIS. Yeah, let's not go all the way to terrorism, but let's not dilute the stupid fucked up shit they're doing. Harassist just sounds contrived.
You've got a jerk,
it's a buzzword,
you've got hate crime, and then you've got terrorists. So it's not not a nuanced dial there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's he was just saying that. Go ahead.
I don't know if that was me because I'm kind of lagging in and out, but I mean, the whole thing is it's a buzzword. It's a thing that gets attention in popular media. I mean, it's freaking Fox News when they had the Ebola patient come to the United States of America. A man with Ebola now in the U.S. something like that. Yeah, they use the buzzwords there, and they continue to do that shit because it gets the attention that they want.
It does.
It gets their ratings up. So terrorist is a very good word to use.
Clickbait. If you're a politician, if you're a newscaster, regardless of stripe, But for intelligent people to discuss perhaps the similarities between ISIS and Gamergate.
Yep.
I mean, certainly there are some structural similarities. No one's going to say that Gamergate's a bunch of terrorists.
Yep.
What I'm saying is that you can definitely see the similarities in the method.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're
they organize,
trying to intimidate people into shutting up.
Yep.
Anyway.
Well, I would like to interject this for the rest of this. I mean, we should really just call the Gamergate guys that are causing all this trouble spoiled babies who can't shut up.
Well,
I know it's a little bit mouthy and wordy, but I mean, it fits very well. So
I would
the
use
views of all of the members of this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of everyone in this podcast.
Yeah. That being said,
wait, what?
Hasn't, what Terry just said being said, I would like to say that 4chan has not been scary since the feds broke up LulzSec.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Just out of curiosity, Chris, can I get your magic cards?
I know, right?
I have magic cards. You can have them.
No, he's asking that because I'm going to be killed by 4chan.
So. Well, yeah, but I'm saying that the event.
4chan.
I'm saying that the event of your death isn't relevant, and I have magic cards to give away.
Fair enough. I think Josh is the real winner here.
Because we're friends. That's why I say it, Chris.
So anyway, We're going to, yeah, I just call those whiny, entitled man babies gamers.
Yeah.
Because
Let them have the title. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Like,
I've never thought of myself as a gamer. I know if you guys read my blog, it's going to be boring. But,
Nope.
you know, I play the fuck out of Minecraft all the time. If I play Spider-Man Web of Shadows one more time, you guys are going to have an intervention. I love Mass Effect, but I have never identified as a gamer. I mean, yeah, we play role-playing games, so I guess in that respect, I play those games, but it's not an identity simply because of vassals like this. So yeah, I will abandon all rights to that ship and just watch it burn itself down to the fucking waterline. I'm not.
yeah, like I'm completely in accordance. I mean, I got my first Nintendo when I was 2 years old. And I didn't stop playing video games until recently, and I'd never identified with like, oh yeah, like I'm a gamer. I do this. I'm like, I've played games. Like I've definitely like had like there are certain genres of like, hey, look, I'm pretty good at Mortal Kombat, so I'm gonna wear that chip on my shoulder. But I mean, it's not like I was never like a Mortal Kombat-er.
Yeah.
Or like, so it's this notion of just like when all of a sudden like, and it seems to all happen at once, like gamer culture in quotes, geek culture in quotes, nerd culture in quotes, all kind of came out to be kind of cool demographics to market to, and so everyone kind of started identifying voluntarily one way or the other. I'm like, yeah, I don't really register it as like a thing you self-identify with. It's like something you're pejoratively called and hope they don't beat you up for.
I guess.
So I'm like, whatever, you can have it. You fucking man babies can have fucking the gamer tag because
Yeah.
I don't think any one person who just enjoys playing video games for their own sake could give a shit.
And not only that, I mean,
How do I
like
reach
the
these
thing is,
These keys.
I've never been a fan of that title because of the fact that it's so restrictive in how it's always been offered to me. It's like I'm not just a gamer. I don't think anybody really is just a gamer. Like everybody's multifaceted, but it's annoying to know that like they're clinging so hard to this tribal identification that they're trying to sum up everything they are through that identification, and it's like.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
this
I mean,
everything
like
you want?
that's the one thing. That is the one thing that doesn't surprise me because, growing up around Catholics, I felt as if I really kind of like once I kind of started seeing things that were a problem, I really kind of my not solution, my justification for this behavior was humans don't like to be alone, and so they want to be in groups, and so they want these groups to be meaningful, and so there are various different ways you can make these groups to be meaningful, and so to cling to whatever that identity is makes sense to me, like if you've invested so much shit into it. But how it got to be an identity in the first place isn't like oh yeah, gamers were made to like sit on the back of the bus and that kind of shit. No, you just evolved as a marketing demographic. Like that's all that happened. Like there was nothing that made you a gamer. They just started realizing that there's enough of you to make money off of that we could collectively call you gamers.
I don't know. People who liked games one time that wasn't popular, so I think it was natural that they would have something in common. But they've fostered that for 20 years with their enthusiasm and with money. I mean, these are the people who resisted the efforts by what's it called? Jack Thompson, right? To try to protect gaming from people who are going to crack down on. I mean, gamers were the stewards of gaming, but they're not good enough to steward it anymore. It belongs to everybody now.
It does.
I mean, so long. Thank you. I love you. Bye bye. Here's Mindy with your sign off.
Yeah.
No,
that's a good point. I think that is a good point because there was kind of like there was a transition phase in which and it didn't happen overnight, even though my memory, when I look back on it, it feels like it had. But yeah, there was a point in time when it just kind of, you started meeting people that you didn't expect to play video games that were playing video games, and now it's just kind of a matter of course. Find a person that doesn't play video games as well.
Yeah.
My dad was addicted to Mario Brothers.
That's why they put her on National Geographic for the second time.
Yeah, and I like my dad. I remember when we first got Double Dragon, and he started playing it, and I like as just an annoying child sat next to him and I'm like, yeah, Dad, this is what you should do this, and like he never played a video game with me again, and I felt like it was my fault. I was like, oh man,
It might have been, but yeah.
It
I'm
probably
sorry,
was.
Derek.
No, it probably
Do
was.
No. But I mean, it's I'm saying anybody who loves something and wants someone to enjoy it as much as they do.
Well, someone that you care about, yeah.
So, and then also Richard sometimes who spoils things for me while I'm playing them. Yeah. It just depends. It could be
Well,
anyone.
That's your own fault, Chris. You're doing it wrong.
I'm doing it with Richard in the room, yeah. I don't know not to do that.
Wrong.
Like, Richard, go get the stick. And then just play as much Mass Effect as I can. And then go offshore for fucking 4 weeks. So.
Anyway, I guess we're getting off talk. Well, I mean, I guess I kind of derailed things with kind of whole like the title of gamers in general, but
We're here to hang out.
Yep.
And then bash gamers.
yeah,
So,
I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable with that title. If you want to change the title of this hangout to like bashing gamers, I'm totally fine with that.
I should have actually stopped it and started a new hangout. But, so,
Gamer
fuck
bash.
it, survivors and talking shit about gamers.
Bring it, nerd.
Well, you are right.
Like-
You
like,
really wouldn't want.
I'll jump 10 feet and watch you huff and puff your way to me with your fedora and neckbeard.
Yeah.
You are right. You should have started a new hangout. We don't want to alienate the fan. Copyright Family Guy.
So anyway,
No, we didn't show a picture of a fan, so that's why we can use it still.
Oh yes. Good deal.
so shoot, yeah. So obviously the trolling and the harassment continues.
Yep.
2 women write about this. There's some articles that are actually sort of empathetic. Al Jazeera America writes an even-handed response to all of this, which places the people who believe in what's called the Quinspiracy, right? Because Zoe Quinn.
Yeah, that's her. That's her,
Quinspiracy.
that's her Twitter name. Her Twitter name is at the Quinspiracy.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
It's always before this happened. This has always been a joke with her. Like she's always just like called herself the Quinspiracy. Like, and it's just like it's kind of like a. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with like Something Awful or like Goons or anything like that, but are you familiar with like the Zyborn clock?
No.
Like, what is the Zyborn clock? You can look it up, but basically it's just kind of like it's basically just kind of like this horrible idea for a game that it was so bad it was good, and people just enjoyed like making these weird things about the Zyborn clock, and so then, but the person who originally kind of put forth this idea for a game that was just so bad, never really like talks about what the Zyborn clock is. It's just like an amalgamation of cliches is what this game is.
Uh-huh.
So like the Quinspiracy, at least my take on it is her take on the Zyborn clock, which is this is the Quinspiracy. Like that's kind of her Twitter.
Okay.
Her Twitter kind of like ongoing joke, I guess.
Okay. Well, I didn't. I do follow her on Twitter now.
Yeah.
I did not realize that though. I thought that I didn't read the exact at. I just thought name, situation, etc. Right. So it equates the Quinspiracy with the people who feel that the Quinspiracy is beneath contempt. And then, Breitbart, I think, publishes an article about that kind of sides with the gamer side of it. And I guess Breitbart isn't a really reputable source for information. I don't know.
Yeah, by definition.
Okay. I don't know. I've heard of it before. I've never actually gone to and interacted with it. So, at any rate, the war continued. World War I style in the trenches, social justice warriors calling out stupidity of Gamergate, starting a hashtag called Not Your Shield, where minorities and sock puppet accounts that look like minorities claim that social justice warriors are advocating on behalf of minorities to the detriment of minorities to deflect honest criticism from game journalism.
God, that's like so many meta levels. My head hurts.
Right. Well, the weird thing is that throughout all of this, 4chan has to actually pretend like they're feminists for some degree of time.
Yeah.
So they actually end up giving to feminist organizations, making pro-feminist video game characters,
Yeah.
independent women who can go into different games and stuff, and then trying to argue social justice and feminism with social justice warriors and feminists. So it's sort of like even just by making this engagement happen, it legitimizes these platforms and makes 4chan at least understand them on a surface level, if not fully internalize them. So 4chan at least has to be a proponent of women and blacks and Jews, which is completely against their nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I didn't know that happened, and that's a huge thing. Like that's
Right,
wow.
because they had to pretend to play nice to appropriate the conversation from Tumblr's social justice. This was Tumblr versus 4chan 2012.
Yeah.
It's the most amazing thing. So you actually have like gamergateharassment.tumblr.com, which is gamers from 4chan trying to make themselves out to be the injured victims of harassment from Tumblr users and social justice warriors, not only to legitimize themselves, but to delegitimize their social justice warriors' enemies. And it was... you go pretty far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, once you get to that level, you basically say, like, oh, everything I did I meant to do. Like, you can always say that.
No,
As long as your criteria for believing that is just thin or non-existent, then it's always true.
and even you have 4chan threads that are apparently being appropriated by false flags and social justice warriors, and so you have entire threads that are like, no, that last thread was totally infiltrated by social justice warriors. This is the real thread.
Yeah.
Trying to harass Anita Sarkeesian.
No, I'm Spartacus.
So I'm sure that there are people who went to 4chan who had basic computer savviness and then made posts who disagreed with 4chan, but then still posted in 4chan as though they agreed with them, and then vice versa. So, like after a certain point in time, because nothing was real anymore. Thank God, Zoe Quinn came out with a collection of information she'd collected, screen caps she'd collected from 4chan folks who were honestly planning and strategizing and creating strategies for their campaign, which up to this point they had been doing.
Yep.
But journalists and social justice warriors had not been doing. They'd just been reacting, which was pretty stupid.
Yep.
But
all they fucking do.
Anyway, it's a bunch of screen caps where you actually have 4chan folks talking about ways they're going to harass people, how they're pretending to do this, how they're pretending to do that, how they're starting these tags to delegitimize their enemies. All this information, which was discussed in public venues but anonymously, that she was easily able to just go into, as anyone in 4chan would, and then get a screen cap up and then put it up.
What was cool about it is that she had, like, she kind of used his own tactic against them, right? So he was like, oh, I know enough about her to, like, hack into some of her accounts, like, guess her, like, forget my password and guess, like, her questions, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, or he had enough privileged information to be able to get into some of her accounts. She knew enough about him to know what his IRC handle was. So when she was in RC room, she was able to who is and like post his IP, like that's him, like bam, like I have him in this IRC chat colluding with others, and that's his IP address. Like, what more do you need? I'm like, she handled it pro pretty much all the way.
Freaking,
Yeah, she did.
like, pay big he's gonna have to go to freaking. I don't know. He's gonna have to get fined for freaking slander or some shit. I hope.
No, he's not. Nothing's gonna happen. He's just gonna fucking. People are gonna forget, and nothing's gonna happen. There's gonna be like, this can be like fucking Ferguson and any other kind of shit that goes down. Like, no one gives a shit, and all it go. You know, never mind. I'm just angry at this point.
Once they were found out, they actually. I'm trying to find the screen cap for it right now. They actually sounded the retreat, and they're like, we're just going to come back later to this. So, they're not gone. They're just calling the round.
Has it been more than 5 days? Because if they let it go for more than 5 days, the internet's forgotten about it.
It was this morning. So
it was this morning.
it was this
All right,
morning
so-
that Zoe Quinn finally published everything she'd been gathering for the past week.
We got
So-
96 hours.
There you go.
So, but again, it is really weird how all the stuff's interacting. How maybe 4chan will understand a little shit just by pretending to understand that shit. How, maybe what a gamer is has changed. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe I'm just doing wishful thinking, hoping that all the a-holes are irrelevant.
It has. I can go on and say that from the perspective of the South playing video games growing up, and like remembering like the first person you meet kind of identifying themselves as a gamer or a geek or a nerd voluntarily, and then you see that kind of metamorphosis of these types of people kind of change over time. It definitely isn't what it is now. Does not seem what it was at its genesis.
Yeah, I don't know. Only one of us looks so deeply into the heart of 4chan, I think. I think that's Josh. Only he could
look
tell
at the
us.
heart of 4chan.
I mean,
Yeah.
of all of us, I would think it'd be you or Derek. So,
Yeah, I've definitely been down those roads.
see?
Mm.
So,
Seen a lot of stuff and
So-
things.
I did stuff and
No
things.
potatoes.
I would recommend it.
I don't know. Maybe it's different. Maybe it's not. I don't. People like quoting. I think it's MLK who said that the arc of history is long, but it leans towards justice. I don't buy that at all.
No, I don't think so either.
I hate to quote Frank Miller, but the world only makes sense when you force it to. So I think that there's a lot of work left to be done. But anyway, I'm happy that it was revealed that a bunch of trolls on 4chan wound up people and set them loose on Tumblr and then lost. So
Yeah.
I can live with that.
Yeah, I mean it's frustrating that these are the kind of the times that we live in, and especially with having like a, with being the father of a daughter, it's hard for me to figure, like in my mind, like it's kind of these things that happen kind of keep me awake, because I'm like, well, I mean, I was already like planning on teaching my daughter how to like disable and kill people, but how do you do that shit on the internet? Like, it's like, well.
Yeah.
What if she grows up, she's just not interested in computers, but that doesn't mean she's any less vulnerable, and it's like, damn it, like I can't really force all these things on you.
Yeah.
Like,
Derek,
people are
you
just horrible and dumb. I hate it.
According to 4chan, you can.
Wait, this is important, Derek. You need to go out and rent the movie Hannah if you haven't seen it. And then
Hannah, that sounds familiar. Is that they're in like the like secret agent raised the experiment in like the Siberia or something?
yes,
Is it
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Hannah?
It was
Dr.
good.
Hannah's the best.
it was Hannah.
Dr.
H-A,
Hannah.
and then H, I believe, was the actual title. And Eric Bana's in it. It's actually
Yeah.
a really solid film.
It's really good.
Yeah.
H.A.
He was one of the less awful Hulks. I'm looking for a screen cap that I want to link to you. 1 second. Damn
So
it.
just so you guys know, like this whole time I've been leveling up leatherworking in WoW because it's like pretty mindless.
Oh, you're back in WoW?
Yeah, it's not so much back into it as I'm just kind of like bored. I've been playing guitar with Rocksmith and my fingers are actually bruised from the strings because I've been playing so much. So I'm kind of
Wait. I want to do it this time. Intervention? Intervention?
I've been playing this game on and off for forever. It's not like it's any surprise to y'all. I mean, Terry's playing Diablo 3. Oh.
Yeah,
that's a game.
That's different. That has a higher number after it than the other Diablos you've played before.
Yeah.
So anyway, I cannot find it, but there's a great post where it basically goes, we don't know what to do. Sarkeesian obviously isn't backing down, and Zoe Quinn is regaining her confidence. And it is just such an amazing moment because Anita Sarkeesian, no matter what else you say about her, isn't backing down.
Yep.
And because she absolutely believes in what she's doing, even though she's obviously dealing with a lot of awful shit from it.
Which we did learn. We did learn when we watched. What was that movie? That's admirable. Whatever that movie was. God, I wish
You're
we
talking about,
yeah, we were talking about words of like I can't, but I don't agree with it, but I admire it. I admire their conviction or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely Carlos. We're talking about real terrorists
Carlos.
versus
Yes.
fucking Carlos.
Yeah.
Fucking Carlos.
There really should be a
So,
parody of that movie. Like, it would be pretty hilarious. Like, oh, Carlos,
God,
what are you gonna think of next?
it could be a pie in the face movie, and it would still
Yeah.
be funnier than Carlos.
Yes.
So, anyway, all I'm saying is that your daughter may not be able to own noobs on the internet, but if you give her a good set of morals that she doesn't back down from, I think regardless of what she does do, she'll do pretty well. That's all I'm trying to say.
Here's hoping.
Yeah. So, anyway, and that was us bitching about games, and it's pretty ironic that a girl from the 80s says that video games are better than they were 10 years ago before, because
It is super ironic.
God, maybe video games are better now than they were 10 years ago, or maybe in another year they'll be better than they
I
were.
mean, I genuinely believe like a lot of the majority, if not all, of AAA title games are just shit, and it's because it's a lot of what you see in Hollywood as well. It's the same kind of trite money making nonsense that they pander to teenagers, and for some reason, 20-somethings and 30-somethings decide to get on with it as well.
Safe, unimaginative
Yes.
entertainment, right?
Well, I
And
mean,
that's-
this is one of the things that I was talking with Chris kind of on and off about was that we both have this whole RPG Maker thing that I've started pursuing, and then I lost like a month worth of notes, so
Yeah.
I like lost everything because my freaking phone died.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm making copies of that shit from now on. But the whole thing is, I mean, when you look at the
Jesus,
concept of the
Jay.
basic story, like the basic appealing story, like it's really hard to make something new and innovative. Like, I mean, basically the story breaks down into 4 or 5 different versions, and that's it. I mean, you can.
I
take
disagree with that, but
this
fair enough.
and break it down. Do it.
It's revolutionary if you create a story with 50% women, 12% black people, and 12% miscellaneous. Like that's revolutionary these days.
The
So-
story arc itself. I mean, the same thing is repeated over and over again in like a whole bunch, in pretty much every story that I've ever read. I mean, the hero's journey, the freaking, you know what I'm talking about. The story.
I don't think that's I don't think that's a genuine critique. That's something that English majors say when they want to talk about how cynical literature is, when it really isn't. There's still good literature out there. Read any book on Jim Butcher, and it's like, yes, there are themes, but so what? You can still organize these themes in pleasant ways that appeal to mass amounts of people, and that's the point.
Like every story, unless it's a French novel, is going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So, like, yeah, they're all similar. So, have you heard about French novels? Anyway, I'll see if I can find something for you. Well, they take, there's surrealist painting. Like after a certain point, everybody painted, and they got photographs, and they're like, well, we can't just do realistic painting anymore. We have to do things and shapes and color and ideas and bullshit. Impressionism. So nothing against any of those things. It's just painting had to become something other than literalism to convey specific ideas. And they take it into a point where it's not immediately accessible to the public. Well, as I understand it, not obviously all French people, but there is a genre of French literature where you simply say, look, we aren't going to go with beginning, middle, and end. We're not going to go with narrative. We're not going to go with the guy putting one foot in front of the other. We're going to go with shapes and symbols and impressions and nearly Dadaist styles of making novels. And it's interesting stuff. I'm not interested in reading it, but it's interesting that it takes the novel to a less accessible place in the name of art and in the name of creating something wholly different from what you've seen before. So, say there's nothing original isn't quite right, but yet for most things we consider novels, yeah, I mean beginning, middle, and end, introduction, conflict, resolution, yeah, they're all similar. You even have a lot of very similar stories within that, but what you enjoy, what you take away from it, the lessons you have, the virtues you put into it, how a person connects with the characters, who those characters are, that's where the originality is, I think. Where you go, yeah, the plot points are similar. This could be Odysseus, this could be Hercules, this could be fucking Batman. Yeah.
And to be honest, like you could tell the same exact story, and I think if you follow what's his name, Joseph Campbell, he does some very interesting work on myths and how myths evolve over time, and they're essentially the same story. But when you tell the same story in a different historical context, it is interesting. It is quintessentially the same story, but the differences are what's important and how it kind of this was supposed to appeal to the local people of the time, and that's like being able to see that scope of it. I mean, I never agreed even when I heard Richard say it, or when literature teachers said it's like, oh well, there's nothing original, everything's been done before. I'm like, no, I like my gut instinct tells me that you're wrong and this is pandering.
Yeah, sounds like an easy excuse, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like we've done that thing that Terry and I kind of did to you last week, where we talked about understanding extremes without liking them. I feel like you and I have done that to Josh just now.
Yeah. Sorry. It was a trigger warning thing. It had nothing to do with you, Josh. It was just I remember the shit in high school and Richard, and we got into a fight about it then. And I was like, it is certainly.
I know you talked about it.
That was my whole thing that I was trying to underline, was the fact that the story structure is always there.
Okay.
And like the fact that there's an entire branch necessarily making sense to having that symbolism, especially with my love for art and films, like that's one of those things that I'm going to have to seriously consider looking into. Like I'm curious to see how these books play. But I'm sitting here. My main thing is I'm trying to sit here and tell this story, and I recognize the fact that the only thing that can be different within the story is the message that you're trying to send, which is why message is so important in these things.
Yeah.
It's why you come up with the idea, you come up with the characters, like I was saying, you come up with these things because the structure is per se. A tree is a tree. It's just slightly different. It's the tree. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even with television series, you want to put the same storyline over and over again. I mean, look at NCIS. I mean, I swear to God.
Okay, no, I will not look at NCIS.
But
yes, don't you put that on us, Josh. Dare put that on us.
Put that voodoo on us, Ricky Bobby.
I got you though. It's pretty. Oof, it's like a cockroach. And that it has such a simple form with so many permutations. It's survivable in its simplicity. I'm sorry, Josh.
Exactly.
I wish people would stop saying that to me.
Exactly, and that's the thing.
Wow, he's breaking up pretty bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Josh.
I mean,
I'm getting like every I think 20th word.
Yeah, we can just wait it out for a second. Let him finish.
Loading, buffering.
Josh, can you say web wizard for us, please? Web wizard. I love that episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
I think we lost him.
It's kind of stupid, but it's so
I'm
fun.
the World Wide Web Wizard.
Are we still live? Why don't we kill this and
Oh, this is hilarious. This is gold. All of this is gold.
this 3-hour-long hangout.
People will love it, I tell you.
It's gonna catch on. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot.
People are going to be like, I'd love to make love for 3 hours, but there's no background noise that's appropriate.
This is appropriate background noise for that.
Well done.
I think I'm gonna have to question the last time you did that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
The
best background noise is actually probably a Mario level, where you have like the music, and then you have like the coin hits, and then like the 1-up sound. That would probably just be the best.
I suppose if you want to get kinky, you can have the dungeon level.
Oh yeah. I mean, after a certain point, you're gonna get to the dungeon level and use the tempo.
Yeah.
And what's really sad is these were the noises that were coming out of my kids' mouths 2 days ago in class.
What are you talking about?
They were making the Mario noises in class.
Oh, it's retro now, so it's cool.
Yes.
That's good. The culture has survived. Just the essentials though.
All right. Next time I have sex,
I have the perfect cable cosplay.
Yeah. Well, next time I have sex, I will during climax think, Da-na-na-na-na-na, da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, the flag set? I would go for
No,
the one.
I thought you did that as a matter of course.
Well, sometimes you don't think about it, and occasionally I just do the Final Fantasy. You won the fight music, so.
Dun, dun,
See, I,
dun,
I
dun,
do
dun,
the music where
dun.
all the Reapers go into the Citadel. Like just the
Well,
background music for that because it's way more epic.
wow, Chris, I think I figured out why you haven't had sex in a while.
Of the difficulty of fitting Reapers into that tiny Citadel. That's one reason, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's a problem. I was half quoting SNL there, so I guess Josh is gone, but we are really still hanging on his every word because I wanted to know where he was going.
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, actually, and I kind of felt bad because I felt as if I did kind of like I don't know, angry Derek my way out of his point. Like
It happened. Like we've all got things that we've got chambered, and then
Yeah.
like we'll hit upon it, and then we'll just hit it. We'll hit the flow.
it's just
We'll
not
get out things that
intentional.
we
It's because it's one of those things where you come up for air and you're like, oh wow, I was being a jerk. Oops, sorry guys, my bad.
You just realize you're rambling.
Yeah.
That's okay. Everyone's a jerk.
Anyway.
This jerk, that jerk, you.
I mean, you're your own class of jerk. Let's be real.
We're all jerks, and on that note, I think I should heed the wise advice of my friends and actually stop the broadcast.
Yeah,
So-
but we should still hang out though, right?
Yeah, definitely hang out still. So, if you're watching this, one, get a hobby. Two, we are going to talk about.
Are you a
things
bot?
after
Have
the
you gained
broadcast.
sentience?
Yeah, if you've gained sentient, just spam me about UGG boots a little more.
It'll be our secret. It'll be our secret code.
I mean, they seem comfortable, but
They-
honestly, anything I get advertised for in spam, I don't want. Another reason I haven't had sex in so long.
You wear Ugg boots?
Have you seen Chris's boots? Yeah.
Oh, God. I got UGG feet. So I'm still getting blisters as I come and go. Anyway, on that bombshell,
Yeah.
can we say goodnight, Terry?
Good night, Tara.
Yay.